Welcome in to 2-for-1 Drafts, PFF's new Rookies and Draft Prospects podcast. I'm Austin Gayle with Mike Renner. We've got a ton of good things today. Before I dive into the show schedule, though, we are now on Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
We finally got it up. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and live on YouTube Tuesdays and Thursdays. Got to check it out. I know the podcast is great, the audio, but you got to see the faces, man. Do
you have to see the faces?
My face at least. My face at least. Anyway, I want to dive into the schedule, though.
Sometimes with you.
The outfits are bad. I will say this right now. My fashion sense is, in a word, garbage, I think, but trying to get better every day.
2 words, very garbage.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I wanted to dive into the schedule. Let's kind of kick things off. Mike Renner on the website dropped his risers and followers of the big board and his new
big board.
Yes. New top 50 list, all top 50 prospects, some good names on there. He still loves Jared Pinkney out of Vanderbilt. He has 26 receiving yards. I had to bring it up. 26 receiving yards. Doesn't look great right now, but I know you like him. Compared him to Antonio Gates in PFF's preseason draft guide. You did. So we're going to talk the big board. That's what we're going to kick off with. And then going down further, we're going to preview a bunch of games and kind of separate it out by day. Thursday and Friday, college slate. There's some good games, some good prospects to watch. Saturday, of course, a ton of college football. Mike and I will be watching it together. Maybe a couple bevies. We might have a couple 2-for-1 drafts. We'll see.
It is Notre Dame, Georgia.
It is Notre Dame, Georgia. It's going to be a full send.
Notre Dame, Georgia, but yeah.
Can't wait for the full send. Then Sunday, Monday, obviously pivoting to rookies. Going to be talking up some rookies, Josh Jacobs, Marquis Brown, some guys there. And then segment to finish, last call. We're going to be talking about games you have to watch. If you are a diehard rookies and draft prospects guy, have to watch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that should be exciting as well. Let's just get into the big board. I edited this thing. It's a monster. Some big risers, what you called rocket ships in a tweet, and then you also have some sinking ships as well, some guys falling out of the mix. So kind of kick things off. What your overall take on where your top 50 list is right now?
Yes, there were a handful of risers, guys who either weren't even in the draft guide, in the case of Joe Burrow, Alex Leatherwood, Carlos Basham, Terrell Lewis. Those guys weren't even in the draft guide. Some guys who were in it, I was kind of hedging my bets if they were, someone like Hunter Bryant, the Washington tight end, didn't have a ton of snaps. Yeah. Was he for real? Was it kind of just a product of, how little he had played? And then a guy like Marvin Wilson, who I liked a lot. Thought he, had some good tools and is just taking it to a next level. So I guess we'll just go through one by one here and start off with Marvin Wilson. He started at 46th on our draft board preseason. Like I said, I liked what I saw from him. 46th, kind of like a second, third type of rounder after his true sophomore year. Has had a grade of 90 plus pass rushing grade every single game so far this season. Basically unblockable in obvious passing situations. So that is, to me, when you see a 315, 320-pound man who can play as many snaps as he has, he's on the field pretty much every snap there for that Florida State defense and play him at a high level, then all of a sudden it's like, in a defense tackle class with guys with a lot of question marks, he's DT1 right now. He is DT1.
You have to. We talked about it on Tuesday. You have to watch this game against University of Virginia. The guy went against Power 5 competition and made it look like he was going against Portland State. Dominated the interior there, really great pass rusher. He's so big, very athletic for his size. And again, we said this last week too, turned 21 years old like 10 plus days ago. Yeah. The guy's only going to progress. He's still going to get bigger, all that stuff. There's a lot of good things with Marvin
Wilson. And then when you see a guy go from 1 year, freshman year, 67.3 pass rushing grade. Last year, 81.3. This past season, this season right now, 93.3. Like that upward trajectory, you feel great about that because he's working on his game. He is refining it. He's doing the things he needs to do to get better. When you see a guy like Raekwon Davis, on the other hand, Alabama guy who I've said 3 straight years of pass rushing grades in the 60s, freaks athletic, but he's not doing what it takes, or maybe he can't do what it takes. Maybe he just doesn't have that next gear in him to get to that level as a pass rusher. So that's what you need to see.
That's something we don't really hit on enough, that progression in the grades. You bring it up a good amount in our conversations, but seeing guys go from as true freshmen in the 60s to 70s and then 80s, that progression shows that they're getting better, obviously. I mean, that's what you obviously with the numbers, but it's so important when you are projecting the next level that you're seeing a guy get better over time.
Because I tweeted out yesterday that, I don't need to see any more Chase Young, Jerry Jeudy, and people are like, oh, they're not, you're saying they're perfect prospects.
You're just trying to get out of work.
No, they're not. They're not perfect prospects. No one's a perfect prospect coming out, and that's the biggest thing. Everyone has to get better from college to the NFL. It is a big transition no matter how dominant you are. And to see guys who have been able to make that transition, one from high school to college and keep progressing, you feel good about it going from college then to the NFL.
Other guys on your list, Joe Burrow is a rocket ship. I think that's a great way to call him. He wasn't even in the draft guide. that first draft guide. And now, seeing what he did against Texas, he's had some great games, and really his passing grade on NFL throws, that's kind of the most important thing. Those downfield throws into tight windows is fantastic right now.
His adjusted completion percentage, 10-plus yards downfield, is something like 84%, which would be, I think that'd be second if it was just all throws. So him, when he's actually throwing down the field, the throws that you want to see a guy make the NFL level, is as good as anyone else's, literally on screens, behind the line of scrimmage, that sort of stuff. He is playing at a different level right now. Really only played one real competition in Texas in terms of his schedule. Plays Vanderbilt this upcoming week. Definitely one to, not a great defense, kind of like a warm-up. If he still maintains that high level, you get real excited, though, because it's still, it's still an SEC defense.
No Vandy defensive back has a grade above 70.0 right now. It could be rip-roaring. It could be rip-roaring Rapids.
And that's what you want to see, though. You want to see him blow the doors off teams like that. So.
And he's got so much receiving talent. I'm thinking about Justin Jefferson and these guys going against a very bad Vanderbilt secondary. Maybe not a game to watch just because you know what's going to happen, but definitely one to check in on after Saturday coming through and look at how Justin Jefferson performed against bad competition and Joe Burrow as well. Other guys on your list, Canadian-born, this guy we bring up a ton, Neville Gallimore out of Oklahoma. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, so he lost 30 pounds over the course of the offseason. Was a pure nose tackle last year. I mean, still a nose tackle this year, but was like your more prototypical 330-plus pounder, kind of space eater in that Oklahoma defense. And you saw it on tape, though. You saw for a guy that size, he had a first step that was special for a nose tackle. Lost weight, though, like I said, lost 30 pounds, and that first step is even more special. Now, he is physically right up there with any defensive tackle in the country with what he can do. And it was always kind of scratching the surface with his hands. He'd have reps where it looked good, and then the next rep he would just attack a block with his head down, no real plan of attack. That's sort of, the coaching has taken hold. And again, you love to see the coaching take hold. You love to see a guy have done it already. Don't want to bank on all of a sudden him figuring that out at the next level. So Gallimore, another guy, 90-plus pass rushing grade. Pass rushing grades on the interior, to me, fairly indicative of you either got it or you don't. And the proverbial light switch has flipped on for him.
Yep. Another rocket ship, Carlos Basham Jr., Wake Forest edge defender. Bull in a China shop, we call it on Tuesday's podcast. Very good, athletically, great build, has the size, good juice off the snap. I think you talk about tools, has a ton of tools. This guy's already rocketed up to 34 on the big board after not even being in the draft guide.
Another guy not even in the draft guide, 34. Like I said, pass rushing grade in the 60s last year, but was still kind of productive. But pass rushing grade in the 60s because he played a ton of snaps. And had 52 pressures, but was basically not coming off the field. A lot of cleanup type of pressures, chasing guys outside of the pocket, and that's something that he's going to be able to do well, I think, in the NFL. When you're as explosive as him, he can track down quarterbacks outside of the pocket with his speed, consistently push the pocket. Sort of a Brandon Graham type of player, to where he's just going to that right tackle, the left tackle, wherever you're going to line him up at, is going to be, is going to be squeezing. He's going to be squeezing the quarterback. It's going to feel tight in there.
He's going to lose ground.
Exactly. He's going to lose ground. It's not always going to result in a pressure, but that's just the type of player Basham is.
That's a great
6'4",
that's a great
275. So a lot of, and that, if you have a defense with two guys like that, sort of reminiscent of what the Vikings have with Everson Griffin and Daniil Hunter, it just makes life so difficult on quarterbacks because there's just nowhere to step up, and he is that type of player. That's why I like him, even though he's still kind of, like I said, he's still scratching the surface. He's not refined in terms of pass rushing moves, but that big, that explosive, and already producing at the level he's producing now, that's very encouraging.
And I think, that's a big reason why not a ton of people are talking about this guy. He doesn't have the polish to kind of win blocks super quickly with a great move outside, but he does consistently, constantly, he never leaves the field, but constantly is pushing the tackle into the backfield. He racks up what we call BDs, those beaten defenders kind of things, where he's maybe not getting a pressure on the quarterback before he throws it, but he's constantly wreaking havoc on passing downs. I think Brandon Graham, maybe not a comp, but a good example of what he can do.
Is that?
Another rocket ship, give me another one.
Hunter Bryant, Washington. We've touched on him before, the sort of tweener guy, 6'2", 240, but he's averaging the second most yards per route of any player, period, in the country.
I do love yards per route run. It's one of my favorite metrics for receiving
he is
right now.
Incredibly productive when he's on the football field. After the catch, runs more like a wide receiver than a tight end, even though he's 240 pounds. He is your prototypical, if you're someone like the Rams, who uses a lot of those tight sets, you're not going to ask him to block defensive end one-on-one, set the edge, but they bring them across the formation. They have their guys block out in space. He can do that and still be a matchup nightmare from a receiving sort of position. So if you're someone like that, that deploys the tight end that way, this guy could legitimately be a first rounder for you. He is that talented as a receiver.
That would be a good scheme fit
on our board.
What the Rams do with Higbee and Gerald Everett is so smart for how good what
They're
those guys do
They're not inline blockers.
Like Higbee and Everett coming out, we're not blocking tight ends. I remember Gerald Everett from my San Diego State days. Rough, destroying San Diego State back-to-back years in big upsets. Gerald Everett, great receiving tight end, not a good blocker, but that doesn't mean he can't have a huge impact.
And it's how do you, when those guys are on the field, those two are on the field, how are you going to treat them like wide receivers, or are you going to treat them like tight ends and put in heavy personnel, match with multiple linebackers to try to stop the running game? If that's what you choose, then all of a sudden you have a mismatch in the pass game. So that's what the type of player that Hunter Bryant is.
You compare the Rams' use of 11 personnel and how many times they see base defense, so that 4-3 look or a 3-4 look. It's nowhere near to what other people are running 11 personnel, because that 11, that tight end that they do have, is rarely kept in the block. He's always running routes and always kind of creating mismatches against linebackers and safeties. That's a great comment. Let's go to the sinking ships. Or do you want to talk on that last rocket ship, Terrell Lewis, Alabama?
Oh, yeah, we'll talk one more rocket ship, Terrell Lewis. We have touched on him again in the pod before, comparing him to Anthony Jennings. I think he's the better NFL prospect in terms of what he brings to the table. He's a year younger as well there. I think he's a redshirt junior at Alabama. Anthony Jennings, a redshirt senior at this point. Lewis had the ACL injury last year. I've liked him ever since freshman year. He had something like 88.9 overall, or 89.1, overall grade on 54 snaps. But as a true freshman, to even, I don't care who you're playing, to grade out that well in any sort of game is impressive at the college level. So loved him ever since then. I think he has the combination of bend and burst that is just what you want to see
good size
if you're projecting to the NFL. So 6'5", length. He just has a lot of tools. Still not like a perfect prospect, not quite up there explosively with a guy like Julian Akwara. That's why he's a lot higher on the list.
And the sample size.
He just has a good sort of NFL body at this point with a production to match this season. So I think second round right now is where I'd see him. He's 44th on our board.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the sample size. He has not played a ton of snaps. Only has over
301 in his career.
Yeah, 301 in his career. I think he played 57 snaps against South Carolina. That's the most snaps he's ever played in a single game. Yeah. 34 pass rush snaps. When you start to see that sample size and good production off of it, you can start to buy into the traits and the twitchiness you see in bursts. Because if you do it against a larger sample size and the grades start to match, that's when you can really start to get excited. Love that rocket ship. Let's go to the sinking ships. Not as exciting. Don't like to see guys falling down this. At this
and
point
I say
in the draft
sinking
class.
Ships purely for the sort of dichotomous effect of rocket ships, sinking ships.
Dichotomous.
They're really just guys who fell for one reason or another, and sometimes calling a guy a faller is all relative in terms of, I put Justin Herbert on this list. I called him a faller. He fell down to 14th on our board.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
14th
It's all
player
relative.
The 14th player on your draft board is a very damn good player most years. There should be a damn good player. So
all the top 50 players are very good.
Is more relative to preseason expectations that we set, where we put this guy, and now where we see them 3 weeks in.
Kick it off with Herbert.
So Justin Herbert, like I said, went from 7 to 14. Love the arm talent. Unmatched in the country right now in terms of draft prospects. He has the best combination of arm strength and accuracy of anyone in the country. Can put it into any window he wants to down the field. It's what's between the ears that is the scariest thing to me. You go back to the overthrown Hail Mary against Auburn. Had a play last year at the end of, I think it was the Arizona game, where they're getting blown out, and he dives for the goal line and just takes a shot with, for no reason whatsoever. You don't need to be doing that with 30 seconds left in the game. Just get out of there and stay healthy, and he just gets rocked. He just doesn't have any sort of he's the anti-gamer. He is the anti-Trace McSorley. He's just not he doesn't do what it takes to win. And now I do think the offense he's in at Oregon, not necessarily set up for his strengths. He is a downfield passer. He has a cannon of an arm. He can throw with timing down the field. That offense is underneath, dink and dunk, screens, get it out of your hand quickly. I don't think he's a quick processor. I think he needs to see something open down the field and let it rip. So I think that could help him at the next level if you're in an offense that suits him a little bit better. And I think if I would say it right now, even after it was the Auburn game, second half, that, again, came up real small in a big game, just wouldn't push the ball down the field when it was calling for him to push the ball down the field. That's concerning. But I'd still say he's probably the favorite to be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I think just when you look at his arm, and that's so much about the NFL evaluation is just, can I work with this arm? I can teach him the I could teach him an offense, that sort of thing. Does he have the arm to work with? I think they're going to say, look at his arm, look at Tua Tagovailoa's arm. I would not be surprised if the Dolphins, sitting here, I haven't said tank for Tua, I would not be surprised if it's tank for Herbert come next April.
Well, you bring that up, and you talk about between the ears and maybe not a gamer. What comes to mind for me is you see this stuff before the season starts that scouts or NFL personnel are concerned because he never left Eugene and is really taught, like a home kind of body. Is that kind of matching up with kind of what you see, or what? I laughed at that before the brief. I was like, are you kidding me? The guy's never left home, and now it's a concern.
I'm just going to say, I'm not the only one who thought there was something just mentally off about his game. I remember talking with Zach Robinson, now the QB coach for the Rams, used to be our QB guy. I trust his take on quarterbacks very implicitly. He said to me, there's something off. And we came to this conclusion independently. I'm like, oh my God, we thought the exact same thing. He's like, there's something off. He'll just have games where he's basically
not dialed in.
Something's wrong with the way he's processing his reads.
Thinking about going home to Eugene.
Just call him an anti-gamer.
Maybe struggles on the road. Distance away from home.
Doesn't have the sort of feel for the football, for the position of quarterback, and that's worrisome to me because that reminds me of someone like Mitch Trubisky coming out, where it was just I think it was the NC State game where he just fell apart, and it wasn't necessarily bad decisions. It was what the hell is going on with him right now decisions. So
let's stay on QBs. KJ Costello, the Stanford quarterback, has not looked good. It suffered a big L against UCF. That was a blowout and then some. This guy, looks the part. I feel like a lot of people say looks the part. He's tall, all those things. He's fallen down, unranked now, outside the top 50.
So I loved his ability last year to throw into tight windows, and I thought it was almost a product of the talent around him at Stanford and that offense they were in, that he had to throw into tight windows a lot. And I love the way, when you're throwing into a guy who's covered, you can put it in harm's way. You can put it on the DB's leverage, or you can put it on your receiver's leverage and give him a chance. I thought he was great at giving his receivers a chance. I think the more I've seen, though, this year from him, the more I've seen him press to try to do too much in terms of winning games for Stanford. And you saw it this past week against UCF so much. I go back to the Keanu Reeves back in, the movie, The Replacements, where he's talking about quicksand. Whereas he was just nothing was there.
What a great quote.
Nothing was there early for him. Nothing was coming easy to him early, and then he just starts pressing, and he starts trying to force more throws and made some just ugly bad decisions with the football. And for a senior to be doing that, to be pressing, going to having that quicksand feeling that Keanu Reeves had, you might get that as a freshman and sophomore. Shane Falco, excuse me, not Keanu Reeves. As a freshman and sophomore, you can excuse that. As a senior, you can't excuse away that sort of. You have to play within the offense. You can't press like that. That's worrisome to me. So to me, the niceness of him being able to throw into the tight windows sort of became almost a negative now in terms of he's doing that too much, trying to make too many plays with it. And that's why he goes from 35th to unranked.
Dude, replacements, when I was a kid, I think I was still in high school football or whatever it was when I came out. I don't know how old I was, but that movie got me jacked. When they throw that scene when they talk about what you're most afraid of or your biggest fear, I was like, dude, I'm afraid of quicksand. I'm ready to sink. Very good movie. This podcast is getting a downer feel, okay? You're bringing me down, these sinking ships. I'm ready to just quit right now. Can we get one more sinking ship from you? And let's dive into some prospects to watch, a little bit more energy. Bring up the worst part of the Replacements movie, the downers part. Come on, one more sinking ship.
We're going to do Prince Tagovailoa, Auburn left tackle, because it's going to lead us into one prospect matchup to watch on this weekend, tonight actually, Thursday. But Prince Tagovailoa, Auburn left tackle. I was really hyped for him coming into this year. Dude he hadn't played offensive line until he started at Auburn as a freshman, until he came to Auburn. Never played offensive line. Only played 1 year of high school football back before he was recruited. And upward trajectory of his career was great. I didn't love his movement skills, but he took great angles at pass rushes, I thought. But now he's gotten exposed. He got exposed against Tulane edge defender Patrick Johnson, gave up 4 pressures in that game. The foot speed isn't there. It's not there for the top-tier tackle. It's not saying he can't get it done. I actually gave him a comp with Morgan Moses, who had some pretty poor testing athletically and has been one of the few who has overcome that bad foot speed to be a average to above average tackle in the NFL. But I think that's kind of that's his best case scenario at this point, something like that. And when that's a guy's best case scenario, so few guys end up reaching their best case scenario to where I thought you'd see more. I thought some of that foot speed was just a product of him being new to the position, slow to process. And if it's still slow to process, though, the last year before you're about to play in the NFL, that's worrisome.
I got 2 comments on our boy Prince losing his crown here. 67.0 overall grade in 2017, 670 offensive snaps, blows up to an 84.0 overall grade, 88.4 pass blocking grade in the SEC.
Yes.
You're starting to think, okay, 6'7", has just started playing football, that upward trajectory.
Exactly.
And then I see his, grade drop now. He's down to a 66.3 pass blocking grade through 2 weeks. And equally, the other comment, I saw, Patrick, Tulane guy.
Patrick Johnson.
Yeah, Patrick Johnson. I'm going through his grades, kind of looking at different things. I see he has a super high pass rush grade. I see it's from Tulane. It's like, okay, he's probably played no one. And I dive in. No. He's doing this against Prince.
Yes.
Like, okay, Patrick Johnson's starting to be a name, KB, to kind of pop on for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Patrick Johnson. So let's just lead us into the Thursday slate here.
Thursday slate.
Josh Jones, Patrick Johnson. Now, Patrick Johnson, the edge defender that we just talked about, Tulane. Quick, only a junior, has a couple more years of eligibility. I'd be surprised if a guy like that comes out after his junior year, but he's going up against Josh Jones. So this is a good test for Josh Jones,
Absolutely.
The guy who just cracked PFF's top 50, a riser that I didn't actually even throw into our riser segment for us. Houston left tackle. We've talked about him before.
Athletic,
on this pod.
can move.
Athletic, can move, long arms. Pass sets are a little bit of a work in progress. This is going to need to be redone from the ground up. His feet. They haven't been coached well necessarily there at Houston, but you love what he can do athletically, and this will be a great matchup to see both of those guys. Johnson quick, has a good inside counter. Jones probably hasn't seen a guy with quite the inside counter that Johnson does, so that'll be a good one to watch.
Patrick Johnson, you look at his 2018 grade, 91.3 pass rush grade, over 40 pressures this year, already beating up guys named Prince Tegawanoho. And I want to talk more about Josh Jones.
Yes.
Going into Josh Jones, I had some notes here. 3-star recruit coming out, high school offensive tackle, also played basketball. After his redshirt year, pass blocking grade improved every year. He was 73.1, 80.8, now up to an 88.3. And this guy has been playing significant snaps for a very long time now. They put this guy in right out of the gate, right after his redshirt year. He's gaining that experience. And you talk about true pass sets and reps in pass blocking, having a better, giving you a better idea of how to translate this guy to the next level and predict his future success. I think when it all said and done, you're going to have a 4-year sample size for Josh Jones with significant work all throughout. Yep. You're going to be able to dive into these numbers and see just how much he's going to be able to project the next level. And that's with his technique and his feet that you speak to still needing to get better. If you're that athletic and you already have this kind of production with sloppy feet and sloppy technique, you get to the NFL level, you're coached up a little bit. I think that could be huge.
And that's the thing is, this is probably his last test for a real edge defender that he's going to see until Senior Bowl. Yeah. So this is it for him. It's probably his evaluation. I don't want to say it ends here, but this is your best chance to see him before the Senior Bowl, which I feel fairly confident he's going to be getting a Senior Bowl invite here.
Friday game to watch: Utah, USC. That should be a great game. 2 Pac-12 guys. I think there's some great prospects in this one. Zack Moss cracked your top 50. The running back. Running backs cracking the top 50. You got to pay attention. PFF might actually care about these guys. He's forcing a ton of missed tackles, great yards after contact. You talked about balance ratio on the Tuesday podcast, how much he's good, creating yards after contact, adding yards above expectation. I put in my notes here, though, you have all these things. His yards after contact improving, his rushing grades improving every year. I need some more targets. I need him to catch. He's got 2 drops on 10 catches over the past 2 years, only 57 receiving yards. If he's going to be a top 50 pick for me, and I think for PFF when it's all said and done, you need to see that he can catch the ball out of the backfield and add as on passing downs. Yeah,
his hands. He's had 4 drops in his career. It was used more as a receiver well back in 2017. Yep. But again, you need to see guys running routes is probably the biggest thing that helps out. If I were a running back at the college level, I'd be begging my coach, split me out wide. Let me run some routes. Yeah. You do that even a little bit. I've seen DeAndre Swift is one of the few running backs in college football who's even you've seen done that. And you see a guy do it even for a little bit, catch a few passes there, you're like, oof. That's
exactly.
All of a sudden that changes your perception of.
And you're seeing that more and more in the private workouts at the NFL level, having them kind of split out and run some routes, see how kind of fluid they are athletically. You can tell the athleticism with the ball in their hands, but from a polished standpoint, can they perform those in-breaking routes from the slot and outside? I think that's what I really want to see with Zack Moss. Another guy, I don't know if we've even touched on this, but I kind of like Michael Pittman Jr.
Okay.
6'4", 220 pounds, and why I bring that up is because you don't notice that immediately. He looks like a smaller, quicker guy. He has more wiggle for his size, in my opinion. I wouldn't have to look at his size, and I was expecting more of a 6'2", 200, just given how quick he is off the snap, and he has some wiggle. I also like his contested catch ability, very sure-handed, only one drop in his career. I think this is a guy I want you to watch. I always come to you with maybe like my Aesop Winston Jr. at Washington State. This receiver, watched him a lot last year on somewhat of a limited sample size. There wasn't a ton of wide receiver win situations, one-on-one matchups. But this year, already off to a good start, some good contested catches. I like Pittman.
That's interesting because I've watched the other two guys. They're Tyler Vaughn, Ross, St. Brown. St. Brown, who, that's a name to watch. That's a first-round type of guy
Absolutely.
in 2021, only a sophomore there. But that's a USC receiving corps. If you like Pittman, I haven't watched a bunch of him. That's a pretty darn good receiving corps.
Absolutely.
Vaughn's
and Stephen Carr, the running back, can catch out of the backfield too.
This SC team might actually be talented. It pains me to admit it, but they might actually have some talent on this SC
There you
team.
go.
So, but yeah, I like Vaughn's as well. So this is a pretty loaded USC receiving core at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the Saturday slate. That was our Thursday, Friday slate previewing the college games. We're going to dive right in to the Saturday slate, the meat of college football. It's when, are you a natural? You need that song.
When you're on the couch, hungover,
Yes.
you hear natural, you know it's college football Saturday.
Oh, man, when that song hits, Michael sometimes texts me all caps, natural,
Yeah,
and I just know I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Cracking
You know
open
it's Saturday at
the
11.
natties. There he is. Yeah. So let's preview this Saturday slate. Big game. Alma mater for Mike Renner, Notre Dame, taking on Georgia. I think it's at 80-point underdogs. I don't know what it is. But
it's high.
It's a little lopsided, but
it was 14.5, which, again, this isn't our betting pod. Go listen to the forecast to hear that. But that's absurd. Go hammer Notre Dame.
Man. I don't know what Green Line's saying about this one. But
if I'm just looking at pure NFL
I'm diving into it right now.
If we're just doing this based off of the NFL talent of the respective teams, that's an absurd line for me. Because I think when it comes 2020 draft, we'll see that they have a fairly equal share of NFL draftable type of talent.
Yep. Well, right now, you go to follow PFF forecast. That's where they talk the betting and all the analytics. That's with Eric Eager and George Chahuri. But Notre Dame at Georgia is our game of the week in PFF Green Line. You can check that out for free. You don't have to be a subscriber. Right now, Notre Dame cover odds of that 14-point spread, 55%. That's pretty good. Might need to throw some money on that one. Throw some juice on that one. Anyway, let's talk prospects. That's what we're here for. There is a ton of prospect talent in this one. I think there's going to be good matchups. In addition, just overall good prospect play to watch. I really like some guys in the Georgia secondary, but let's start in the trenches. Andrew Thomas taking on Aquara and Khalid Kareem as well.
Yes.
He's going to have his fair share of both. Thomas, highest graded offensive tackle in college football right now, if I'm not mistaken. This guy, huge test for him. He could really establish himself as maybe an OT1 right now.
This is going to be great tape for Thomas to throw on. Scout's going to be watching this tape all spring because this is as good an edge duo as he's going to find. And they're both very different in that Aquara, speed off the line of scrimmage, can bend the edge, rush you with the speed to power. Khalid Kareem not going to go off the edge on you. He's not going to get the burst off the line of scrimmage, but he's a former defensive tackle there, played DT early in his career, trimmed down a little bit. Now he's a bull rusher, going to win with his hands. So you got two different types of guys that are going to deploy two different types of skill sets, two different move sets at you. I just worry if they're going to go this run-heavy attack because it's a slim Notre Dame front.
Yeah.
That Notre Dame front is not built to stop the run. They're built to attack the pass. And Georgia, well, they're one of the run-heavy. They're still old-school throwback, put in two tight ends,
and they got a running
push
back
it
to
down
do
your
it.
throat. And with DeAndre Swift. So that's the only thing I worry about. And, yeah, you love seeing Andrew Thomas in the run game. I don't have a lot of questions about Andrew Thomas in the run game. The dude's a monster. It's the passing game I need to see. Can he hold up against speedier, more athletic? Can he hold up against Julian Aquara? I don't know.
So we're rooting for Notre Dame to go up 21-0.
We need to see a lead from Notre Dame early. Maybe even go up like 35-0. That'd be probably ideal for Andrew Thomas's evaluation here.
4 Miller Lights in. Notre Dame's up 14-0, and we're watching Andrew Thomas in true pass sets. I mean, does it get better?
No.
Anyway, I had some notes on Thomas.
That's ideal scenario for Saturday.
Great grades right now. I wanted to dive a little bit into the background. True freshman, played at right tackle, then moves his left tackle as a sophomore. He's playing left tackle now. Starting at tackle as a true freshman, insane already in the SEC. What he's done is, he's a 5-star prospect. I put in here playing like one, and his grade has improved. Again, you talk about that upward trajectory. Improved every year, 68.4 as a true freshman. Yeah. Insane for the SEC. 80.6 this past year, and already at a 94.2 in 2019. 6'5", 320 pounds, but moves like a power forward.
Yes.
Looks like Big Baby. Glenn Davis out there, very athletic. And only 29 pressures allowed in 985 pass blocking snaps in the SEC. Incredible production for Thomas. I think the background, the 5-star status, all that stuff matches with the production you see in PFF grades in advance.
And there's a ton of, this game's got a ton of matchups, a ton of great prospects.
Oh.
I mean, you go up and down these rosters, the amount of guys that are probably going to be drafted, it's in the double digits come next April. Andrew Thomas won, but just along that Georgia offensive line, you have Solomon Kinley, Ben Cleveland, most likely going to
Ben Cleveland's graded out really well to start as well.
Jake Fromm, quarterback, obviously DeAndre Swift. George Pickens not quite draftable yet, but he will be there someday. Yeah, he will be at some point. You got J.R. Reed, the safety for Georgia, Richard LeCounte, Erik Stokes as well. Not sure he's going to declare. Monty Rice. I'm a fan of Malik Herring on their interior there for Georgia, so that's a ton of guys just for the 2020. Flip side, Notre Dame, Chase Claypool at wide receiver, 6'4", 230. Big dude. Came from Canada. Big-ass receiver. You'd see him better in contested catch situations. This one will be big for him in terms of Georgia presses a ton. Erik Stokes has run the 8th most snaps this year in press coverage of any cornerback in college football. Seeing a big dude be able to get off press is key when you're that size. So that would be big for Claypool to see that. You have Claypool. You have Liam Eichenberg at left tackle. I think he is the best on that Notre Dame offensive line, probably a day 2 type of offensive lineman. Tommy Kramer at right guard, probably going to end up draftable.
The guy looks like he's 40. His picture looks like he's got the Mike McGlinchey face.
That's the Notre Dame specialty.
The Notre Dame special, 40-year-old at guard, at somehow 19 years old.
And then Troy Pride in the Notre Dame secondary, one of the fastest cornerbacks in the country.
He's long, too.
Gilman
He's got good size.
And Jalen Elliott. So there's just a ton of talent on these teams. The most draftable talent that's faced off in any game, in my opinion, this season.
Talk about a game to watch.
So many matchups to watch. This will be tape to throw on continuously. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as the
sounds a little biased for me.
People are saying right now. But the biggest thing is because Ian Book is not very good.
I got to talk specifically about my guy, Erik Stokes. You bring him up. I wrote an article for PFF.com before the season started, looking at a small sample size. This guy allowed, I think, 10 receptions on 25 targets in 2018, running a ton of press. It's not like, when you're charting these guys, he runs a ton of press, a lot of one-on-one situations, played well against Colin Johnson. Maybe got away with a little DPI in the end zone. But he's physical. That's like DeAndre Baker.
Georgia corners bullies. That's what they're coached to do.
So looks great in press. 84.3 coverage grade a year ago. Only 6 passes defensed this past year. I do think Erik Stokes. You talk about reps. True pass sets for offensive tackles. True coverage reps for cornerbacks. That's fantastic. Because you see that from Ohio State. They run a ton of man-to-man.
I mean, the reason why some of the DBUs of recent years are DBUs is because of the coverages they play.
Exactly.
They are playing NFL coverages. They're being coached NFL sort
of
stuff.
Talk about NFL throws,
and that's so big to do.
NFL pass sets, NFL coverages. Jeez, we are really just groundbreaking right now. But I can't agree more, though. And Erik Stokes has a great matchup with Chase Claypool. I think he's going to shut him down. I'm on Erik Stokes' bandwagon. Let's talk DeAndre Swift. 5-star prospect, very high rushing grades, all 3 years at Georgia. And it's not. I would say if you're a 5-star running back, similar if you're like a super athletic NFL running back, it's going to be easy to earn high rushing grades in the PFF system because you have that natural athleticism. You're forcing missed tackles, very shifty, explosive plays come easy for you. He's had very high yards after contact per attempt right now, and 35 on your big board. That's a running back.
The reason is receiving ability. He can split wide. We touched on it. He can split wide and run actual routes and is a weapon in that regard. He has probably the best receiving skills of any back in this draft class. And so I think they're actually special in terms of we've seen it more this year than any other year in the NFL in terms of getting running backs down the football field, 20-plus yard sort of targets. Guys being able to track the ball on those the value is skyrocketing in the NFL right now. So I think as much as we say running backs don't matter, the guys that can do that are valuable.
Absolutely. One last guy we'll bring up before we dive into the other games for the Saturday slate, Alohi Gilman.
Yes.
This guy, he plays bigger than he looks. 5'11", 202 pounds, but he looks bigger. We've in the office talked about plays a very similar style to Harrison Smith. I know the comp is easy, but he can play single high, but he's better at a 2-high system where he doesn't have to have that much range.
Yes.
But I think he's played really well last year. Only 2 receptions allowed for 30 yards this season. I think. What do we need to see from him? You talk about this game being big for a lot of people. What do you really need to see from him to kind of be not all in, but at least understand where he's at?
It's tough because the range is the biggest concern.
Exactly.
If he's in space, if you're playing him deep, single high sort of role, he's not going to be a game changer. He's not going to affect the game. I want to see him more affect plays around the line of scrimmage because they play a lot of quarters, a lot of 2 high, and he's sort of that. you have such a small zone that you have to cover, and it's sort of an easier assignment than a lot of people, than a lot of roles a safety could be in. I just want to see him being able to make plays against good competition from that role, because we saw Clemson game last year really torpedo his draft stock. He got exposed a few times with his lack of speed in that game. I think more of a box role is what he's best suited at in the NFL. So.
All right, let's going to tie a bow on Georgia, Notre Dame. Go to PFF.com and check out. That's the game of the week. You don't have to be a subscriber. You can check it out in green line, how Notre Dame's going. I know if Notre Dame's going to cover that cover probability, it should be a good one to watch for if you got some juice on it. Also, if you're looking to just watch prospects, looking forward to that. Let's move on to our next game. Renner, before we dive into this guy, I know you see him on our little pod notes here. I watched Alex Highsmith.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Guy's got some juice, legitimate speed. I dove into the background. You need to hear this. So the reason he didn't go get him, he's a walk-on at Charlotte. There's one thing to be, like you talk about former Clemson slot receiver Hunter Renfrow. He's a walk-on at Clemson. It's hard to be a walk-on at Clemson, though. This guy was a walk-on at Charlotte. And the reason why his dad, in this interview, he was a late bloomer. Apparently he was like fat and overweight and small in all of high school.
Sounds
and
like
now,
me.
Yeah, like all of us. I'm a late bloomer. I'm still waiting. Like 30 years old, I'm telling you, I'm going to be looking jacked.
Yeah.
But late bloomer, walked on at Charlotte, now 6'4", 245-ish pounds. And really, when I popped on the tape, he has the highest pass rush grade of any edge defender in the class right now.
Yes.
Or not in the class, in the country.
Yeah.
And he has twitch. He has that explosiveness. And he has some moves. I compare him like you look at Carlos Basham, bull in a china shop. This guy is not as he's not as frantic, I guess. You know, this guy maybe owns a china shop, like we said. Yeah, a little bit more polish. He's got a great matchup against Clemson. Yes. Going Tremaine Ankrum and Jackson Carman, both really good pass blocking grades right now. This is his game. If he wants to be considered as a top prospect, he needs to have a good game.
Yeah, Kendall Vilder, the cornerback from Georgia Southern, dominated Clemson last year, had a monster game against Clemson, put himself on draft maps. You probably have heard about him. Because of that, Alex Highsmith has the same opportunity right here. He doesn't play he doesn't play a tackle that's going to sniff the NFL the rest of the year. This is it for him.
He's going against accountants.
If he goes up against Jackson Carman, who looks like he's going to be a top prospect in a couple years, and then Ankrum, who's probably more of a tackle-to-guard convert, but again, another guy who's going to probably be playing in the NFL, if he goes against them and shows out, here's your Senior Bowl invite, show out there, here's your draft invite. Now, I'm not going that far, but no, there's a lot to like about this guy as a prospect. Going to be a big game for him.
And you have to hope he recognizes that. You know, if he has aspirations of playing in the NFL, he knows going into this game I need to have like a 5-6 pressure performance, maybe a strip sack on Trevor Lawrence on the big stage if I'm going to start getting considerations for a Senior Bowl or something.
The only thing you worry about is Clemson offense already gets the ball up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh, I hate those.
Clemson offense Trevor Lawrence has had this bad year to start off with. They're probably just going to they're probably going to get the ball out of his hands immediately, get out of the Charlotte game without getting him hurt.
Highsmith doesn't got a bunch of good guys on the secondary.
You're not necessarily his game against the second stringers might be more important than the first stringers here. Unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
But still,
I think the spread is like 40 points.
Yeah.
So you're
but
probably
still
not
one
wrong.
to watch early on in the game just to see
the 6
how
snaps
it
he
goes.
plays against Ankrum, and it's like 2.5 seconds to drop. Oh, man. I hope that's not the case. I hope it's somewhat close so you just see a couple true pass rushes. You true pass sets.
Exactly.
Pass rush against a true pass set. We'd like to see that. My guy. I bring him up, I feel like, every podcast because I really like him, and he's going against another matchup where I feel like you can start to see it. I was going to clip. He had a great route this past weekend. I was going to clip it, but it wasn't good on broadcast. But, he's beating guys at the line of scrimmage. He looks fast. He looks twitchy. City College transfer, Aesop Winston Jr. of Washington State. I'm nervous because you're not in on him. I get it, but I feel like UCLA, he should see some reps against Darnay Holmes, a guy we liked coming in. Didn't look super great against Oklahoma. I feel like but that was his first game back. First game of this season. He's going against Aesop. Only one drop on 91 targets in his college career. That's not City College. That's Washington State. 4 touchdowns. Again, he can create separation. He's got 4 forced missed tackles after the catch. I'm telling you, I know it's a City College transfer. I think this guy might have something.
I'm just going to say this right now. I hate to break it to you, but Aesop Winston plays right wide receiver. Darnay Holmes plays right cornerback.
So we're not going to see it.
They're not going to see each other.
Dang it.
I'm sorry. It just,
but at least it's going to go. I don't know,
let
man.
you down easy there.
I still hope he beats the brakes off somebody.
UCLA,
the other corner.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He'll probably have himself a day.
Maybe it's not a matchup to watch. Maybe it's just watch him if you have time. Let's just dive into our next game here. One last game to preview of the Saturday slate, and then we're going to Sunday slate. Meaning we're going to the NFL. We're going to be talking some rookies. Oklahoma State, Texas.
2 more games.
2 more games?
Wisco, Michigan.
Oh, that's on me.
Got to.
Now, that's our other game of the week on
Yeah.
PFF Greenline. We got 2 games of the week. I like it. Well, let's go to Oklahoma State and Texas
Okay.
first. The biggest reason I have this game circled, it doesn't have as much NFL talent as it does Georgia Notre Dame, but I think it's got 2 receivers that, in my opinion, still have a lot to prove. Tylan Wallace and Colin Johnson. Let's start with Tylan Wallace.
Yes.
He has 16 receptions right now if you include no plays, a play nullified by penalty. I watched every single one. I'm going to walk you through what the routes are.
Okay.
Screen. Screen. Contested catch TD, I liked it.
Yeah.
Off coverage hitch. Screen, screen, screen. Contested catch on an offsides penalty. Deeper curl route against off coverage. Quick slant against off coverage. Screen, screen. Runs a nice hitch. Terrible play on the ball. Deep go from the slot. Not terrible play on the ball. Terrible play by the corner. Deep go from the slot. I need more wide receiver routes. Way too many screens, and he's turning these like passes behind the line of scrimmage into long plays. So when you look at the box score, you're just like waxing poetic about Tylan Wallace. Dude, I need to see way more routes, some posts, some ins, some digs. I need way more from Tylan Wallace before I'm willing to buy in his 300 receiving yards.
Yeah. And the good news is he's going up against the one and only DBU.
Oh, that's right.
You guys don't get that. Texas before the LSU game, the DBs were wearing there's only one DBU shirts, which
jeez, the ever elusive
I don't think
DBU.
anyone's ever referred to Texas since like maybe 2010 as DBU, unironically.
Yikes.
But yeah, I do think you just need to see him because it's a product of the offense he's in, those big numbers, and the big numbers catch your eye, and you think.
And don't get me wrong, I like his yards after the catch
ability.
ability. He's fast, he's quick. I think he can make plays with the balls in his hands. But I do need to see more of these wide receiver wins on wide receiver, like true NFL routes. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It goes down to what are you going to be asked to do at the next level. You're not going to. The amount of guys that come in to the NFL and are immediately the person in that offense that gets the screen, that gets the scheme production for them. So few. That's not happening to you as a rookie. You have to go create your own. You're going to be the number 2.
That's kind of what we said about N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
I mean, N'Keal Harry had so much schemed production.
Yes, he was
and you
the
said that
feature.
same thing to me. It's like, what are you going to do? Bring N'Keal Harry in and then make him your scheme production guy where you're throwing behind the line of scrimmage a ton? I don't think so.
No, yeah. So.
And he hasn't had a catch this season. No, he's on the injured reserve. But I want to talk Colin Johnson as well. Going into him, including those no plays, again, when you're able to filter in PFF system, you can include plays nullified by penalty. Only 1 catch on 7 contested opportunities. If you're a big guy, we said this on Tuesday, if you are a big receiver, you need to catch the ball in contested situations. It's why you're big. You know, and I think to see that has been a concern. Not great production to start, and he has a good QB, in my opinion. He needs to have a big game, and he's going against A.J. Green, or should see some of A.J. Green from Oklahoma State, who's graded well at times. Some people love this guy, but he hasn't graded well a ton. But I think this is a good matchup for Colin Johnson, and definitely a player to watch, trying to kind of bounce back a little bit.
No, A.J. Green is going to be a great match because A.J. Green is a guy who is good at the catch point. So this will be a good proving ground for him. A.J. Green, 25 forced incompletions last season. I think that led Power 5 cornerbacks. He is good at the catch point. He's good at breaking up passes. So if you can make your contested catches against a guy like A.J. Green,
he needs to have like a 3-for-3 contested catch day.
That will. He has a lot to make up for after the start to his year. It's just been rough for him. So Colin Johnson, a good, in the proving ground for him.
One more game one more Saturday slate before we dive into the Sunday slate. Michigan, Wisconsin. This one, again, game of the week on PFF.com if you want to check out all your betting odds and stuff. But there's some prospect talent here. And so I think, you look at the Wisconsin offensive line. We didn't bring this guy up as a sinking ship, but he needs to improve. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, Tyler Biadasz, their center, was IOL1, was our top interior lineman heading into the year. He's dropped to IOL2 after the first couple games here. Had a rough outing this past week against Central Michigan. He's just not a. So I thought coming into the year he had back-to-back years of being a top 3 grade center in the college football. I thought you're just going to see dominance from him. I thought he could have declared last year. I thought you were going to see game in, game out, clean, doesn't lose at all. And against USF in Central Michigan, that's not who we've seen so far. And that's just not great competition, but again, it's only 2 games. It's still a small sample size to make a huge opinion on. He dropped to 29th on our draft board. But going up against Michigan, they always refill talent along that defensive line. They
got some highly graded defensive linemen right now.
And they went up against Middle Tennessee and Army, two not good offensive lines, we'll just say, to be nice about it. But it's still, they have talent along this defensive front to where this will be a proving ground. A Wisconsin offensive line got kind of their butts handed to them last year against Michigan. That was one of the games where I saw Bo Benshaw against, and I was just like, he is not. I'm not going to be drafting that guy after watching him against Michigan, because Michigan, they're quick. They're what you're going to see in the NFL in terms of athletically. And Bo Benshaw just was all over the place. Had his face on the ground way more times than you'd like. So Cole Van Lannon at left tackle, Tyler Biash at center, a great proving ground for them, and a great proving ground for this Michigan defensive line, because they pretty much lost everybody last year. The guys that are playing now, Carlo Kemp, defensive tackle, Josh Uche, they didn't even have 400 snaps last season. They were
that's what happens
backups.
with Michigan every year, though. They kind of like they push out their draft potential prospects, and then these new guys that come in somehow are still freaks and already grading really well.
So those two definitely names to watch. And then Central Michigan transfer Mcdonough hasn't started off hot, hasn't played a ton in their first couple games, but graded out over 90 last year at Central Michigan. So this would be a good game for him against Cole Van Lannon if he sees them. So I just think there's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Just watch the trenches.
In the trenches, for sure. I want to bring up on Biadasz my background write-up for the 2020 preseason draft guide. Wisconsin native, guy was born and bred, had 5 offers coming out. Illinois State, South Dakota State, Southern Illinois, Western Illinois. Illinois was all over him, ready to rock. And then obviously Wisconsin. Decision was a no-brainer. Committed to the Badgers as a defensive lineman. And then after a redshirt year, moves away from defensive line, starts as center. People are loving this kid. The coaching staff's like, yeah, this guy might be legit. An off start, but I think he can have a big comeback game against Michigan. You do it against Michigan, and still in the first round, a first-round talent on the board. He's a bounce-back game against Carlo Kemp and company, I think, will be good for him, and kind of much needed at this point. That's going to do it. That's going to do it for the Saturday slate.
That's the preview.
That's the preview. So we're gonna that concludes all of our college prospect previews.
As it was. What's on draft?
Exactly. What's on draft? That's going to include what's on draft, the Saturday slate, and then we're going to go right into talking about rookies on Sunday and Monday. Definitely rookies to watch. Let's kick it off. Oakland Raiders going to Minnesota, playing with Josh Jacobs. He's the highest graded running back in PFF system right now, showing really well from a force miss tackle standpoint. We talked about this on Tuesday, though. Needs to get involved as a receiver.
Get him on Anthony Barr. Get him on Eric Hendricks, and let's see what he can do.
Get
involved in some of those, take that running back wheel from Kansas City's playbook. You just played Kansas City, John Gruden.
They got to take something from that game.
Take like 3 or 4 of those plays and start throwing to Josh Jacobs, because I want to see what this guy can do. I want to see the full skill set. On the ground's been great. On the ground, obviously you said highest graded in the NFL. It's going to be tough sledding against Minnesota defense. It's a good defensive line, but I want to see throw this cat the football.
Plus, Raiders are getting back Richie Incognito. Holes are going to be bigger. This guy's going to be throwing people around.
Richie Incognito, he loves his big holes.
So you got Richie Incognito in the trenches. Jacobs should get going. I mean, they're going to feed this guy. They don't have skill players outside of him, really. I mean, Tyrell Williams was cool for a game. You're going to need to get back into the fold here with Josh Jacobs. Pound the rock as you would, establish it, and let's see Josh Jacobs.
The run will be established.
The run will be established, but also let's split this guy out, get him involved in different ways. He's I would say easily their best skill player right now. People were raving about Darren Waller, but this guy, I think, offers the most value on a per target, per opportunity basis. I think he needs to get heavily involved as he gets going. But we didn't even talk about this. He posted to Instagram this morning. Did you see it? He's lost 10 pounds because he's sick. So I don't know if he's even going to play in this game. He might have mono. He's been hanging out with Sam Darnold. Josh Jacobs, mono.
What's going on?
Sick. You heard it here first. No, you didn't hear it here first, but he did post that he's sick and he's lost 10 pounds.
Well, he's going to be quicker then.
Maybe he's faster. Well, that's kind of the update on Jacobs. I got to bring up this guy. I went back and watched all his routes, all of his targets and receptions. Terry McLaurin, he's going against the Chicago Bears defense. I think this is going to be a good matchup for him. I think they're going to be keying on him. 2 games in, Bears are looking at the scouting report that PFF sent them. He's played in over 90% of their offensive snaps. He's leading their team in target share. We need to stop this guy, stop this offense. Case Keenum can't throw anywhere else anyway. And I think he's going to be, with him being keyed on, this early in his rookie career, he's going to be tested. What is a good Bears secondary, I'm excited to see if he can produce.
142.2 passer rating when targeted so far. I mean, maybe throw to him every time for Case Keenum. Maybe don't throw to anyone else.
Paul Richardson Jr., though, is good for about 1 contested catch every 2 years. So I feel like if you bank on that.
No, but Mclaren, I love what I've seen on the vertical route tree. He is tough to stop. I mean, he's been torching cornerbacks down the football field. This is a good test, though, for cornerbacks down the football field. Chicago Bears don't let up a lot of big plays. One of the best safety tandems in the NFL, one of the best cornerback tandems in the NFL. It's just a good defense. So this will be a real test for him. 187 yards through 2 games. If he gets up around 100 again, this is number 1 receiver type of in an
winning
offense
that vertical
territory.
route tree is important. I also like that when the Redskins are trying to come back in week 2, they went to this guy on big downs, like third down, or it might have been fourth down. I don't remember. It was third or fourth down, needed to convert, quick slant, Terry McLaurin right to him. Then when they get that first down, I think they're inside the 5-yard line, need a touchdown, fade. Terry McLaurin, or no, it was kind of like a back shoulder. It didn't go full fade, but threw up kind of back shoulder right back to him again. They were leaning on this guy not only to be like the driver of their offense, but also in key situations like this is the best guy we've got.
And he's a little different from your Deshaun Jacksons, Marquis Goodwins, the guys you think are deep there. He's 209 pounds.
Exactly.
He is solid. Like, this guy is not a small 4.3 speed type of guy. He is a 4.3 speed coming at you who also, you're not going to be able to push me around.
And he moves well, I think, in short areas. He's not like he's got good change of direction, in my opinion. I think we haven't seen him ton against press. You saw him against Byron Jones, Cowboys, shoved him off a little bit on his hitch that I liked. But I would like to see him get involved a little bit more at the line of scrimmage. I didn't see a ton of like line of scrimmage wins yet. But I think they're going to key on him. Chicago's are going to key on him. I think that's a matchup to watch, or really a game to watch. Receiver again, Marquis Brown, kind of tying a bow on our Sunday and Monday preview for rookies. Marquis Brown going against Kansas City Chiefs. This Ravens-Chiefs game, I think, is probably the game of the week. I mean, it's going to be really good to see.
I love this game.
Both teams 2-0. Ravens look better than ever. Lamar Jackson looks like Peyton Manning. I don't know. Everyone's all in. With Marquis Brown, he played more snaps in week 2 after playing, I think, 14 snaps in week 1, more snaps in week 2. I think he's going to now be a very key part of this offense. They're not going to be able to just go in there and run the football and win this game. Patrick Mahomes can put 28 points up in one quarter as he did against the Raiders.
They may be able to run the football and just run this game, though, with that Chiefs defense. But Marquis Brown should – I mean, it's such a favorable matchup for him.
This Chiefs secondary is bad.
He should go to town on this Chiefs secondary. Already leads the NFL in yards per route. I mean, this is about as good a start as we've seen to a receiver's career since, Odell Beckham? I mean, it's only 2 games. We pumped the brakes a little bit, but we just haven't seen receivers hit the ground running quite like Marquis Brown has here in that Ravens
McLaren,
offense.
though, is on pace, though. Maybe hasn't looked as explosive, but I do like what McLaren's put on tape.
But at the same time, McLaren's put great stuff on tape. Marquis Brown's over twice his yards per route at this point. Marquis Brown's just in another level in terms of how efficient he's been.
Got to tip your cap, though, to Lamar Jackson. That deep ball to Marquis Brown, right sideline, that was pretty.
But, I mean, it's been the synergy of that offense has looked gorgeous through 2 weeks.
The stick-to-itiveness, to quote Tuesday's pod.
This is not what stick-to-it
No, it's not.
But, no, I do think, like I said, I loved Marquis Brown coming out. I called him a first-rounder, but he was not the top receiver on our board. We may have missed. He looks like the best receiver from this class right off the bat.
Mismatch nightmare, and he's going against a guy. It's going to be like nose goes who covers him. In Kansas City, no one really wants to step up to the plate there. I think it's going to be a struggle for them to kind of contain him. That's going to conclude our rookie preview, that Sunday and Monday slate. Excited for this week. Really excited to see all these rookies, and that Saturday slate. Man, when the bevies hit, natural hits, I'm going to be ready to rock. Last segment, kind of close the podcast. Last call. Last call for the beers. This is where I kind of wanted to talk to you on if there's one game. I know there's only 3 games on Friday, but if there's one game on Friday that you're watching that we kind of talked about, where are you watching and why?
Utah, USC. Zack Moss, he's breaking tackles at an absurd rate. Can he continue to do it? I know he hasn't faced terrible defenses, but can he continue to do it through the Pac-12 schedule? Is he going to be the number 1 receiver on our draft board running back on our draft board when it's all said and done, because we love guys that can break tackles. I think that we've seen in our data, that's one of the sort of data points that translates best to the next level, and something that running backs can control. Can't always control your blocking. You can control making the guy in front of you miss. So
I was talking to Eric and George about what kind of like predictive stats for running backs and kind of from college to pro. Elusiveness, yards after contact per touch, forced missed tackles per touch, those really do translate year over year at the college level, year over year in the NFL, and you do see that translate going from college to pros.
And there's one more guy in that Utah. I'm not going to say anything nice about USC, obviously. One more guy, though, on Utah that we have to watch that we haven't really even touched on. Bradley and
I knew it, yes.
90.3 pass rushing
Polish.
grade. Yes, he has. This is probably the most complete set of pass rushing moves of any college pass rusher in the country. Is not particularly explosive, not particularly strong. Doesn't really get you excited.
Another reason why he
man,
doesn't.
He's gorgeous in terms of what he can do with his hands. A little bit of flexibility, and if if you produce at this elite level consistently, the last 2 games, pass rushing grade's over 90. If you can do that for the season, already 15 pressures, I can ignore some athletic limitations. If
That's a guy who's like hands and all these like a great array of moves.
And he's not like he's not like 6'3", 230. He's 6'3", 265. Like he has NFL size. He has size. He's just not the sort of explosiveness and he's not that sort of athlete that you love to draft highly, but he could still be a productive NFL player.
My game to watch for Friday is also Utah for Zack Moss, for Bradley Anae, but also Michael Pittman. I do think this is a guy to key on. I think he's, like I said, doesn't look 6'4", 220. He runs like he's smaller, and I think that's what I like with big receivers, when you can look smaller than you are and make these plays. I'm excited.
A.J. Brown-esque.
Yes, A.J. Brown-esque.
225.
There you go. Oh, now, next game to watch on Saturday. There's going to be a lot of games. I know you're going to be watching Notre Dame, Georgia. But from a prospect,
that's my last call.
What's your last call? Prospect last call here.
Hopefully, my last calls is after the game, not like at halftime. And I'm in bed. But the prospect matchup to watch is the Andrew Thomas versus Akwara. I could see legitimately 2 of those guys. I could see Akwara and Thomas ending up top 10 picks when it's all said and done. They're that special of players. So I do think that matchup will be one of the matchups of 2019 football season. My
last call for Saturday. I will be watching that game with you. Oklahoma State, Texas, though. 2 receivers that I want to prove me wrong. Not necessarily prove me wrong, but prove something. I want to see Tylan Wallace do more than catch screen passes, and I want to see Colin Johnson win a couple contested catches against a good A.J. Green at the catch point. There's opportunity, Wallace and Johnson. Freaking show it to me. I need it. All right, last call for Sunday. It's going to be the last call of the podcast. What are you watching on Sunday? What's your last call for Sunday?
My last call for Sunday, you go first.
All right, I'll go first. I think Terry McLaurin, I need to watch this guy. I need to, every time. I think that going against the Chicago Bears defense, I hit on it earlier. I think this is a good opportunity to see a guy that's already the number 1 target in the offense, playing a significant snap count. Really almost won that game for Washington, did everything he could to win that game for Washington, and now has a week to prep, for a Bears defense that's going to be keying in on him. If he goes invisible, like a 4-target, 1 reception, 7-yard game, okay, he needs some time. But if he blows this up and helps this Washington team to keep this close against Trubisky, I do think you're going to start to hear about McLaurin. It's O'Roy. You're going to start getting some O'Roy conversations from McLaurin.
Okay, my last call is the guy I love coming out who has not lived up to expectations through 2 games, Jerry Tillery, but he's going up against the Texans' offensive line.
Titus Howard.
If that light switch doesn't flip right now, hey, light switch may not flip his rookie season, but he has a 44.5 overall grade right now. I didn't think run defense was going to be a strength coming out. It's been bad, but I thought he'd at least be able to get after the passer, and he has not.
He had that one highlight in preseason, and, while we're on him.
No one hangs their hat on – if you hang your hat, if you sort of take your victory lap in preseason, you're a squid. That's not – don't do that. That's not where it's won. He doesn't have a pressure yet, 22 pass rushes.
Oh, my goodness. Well, he's going against Titus Howard.
But
that guy sucks.
I
think he's going to have an opportunity. He's got an opportunity to show he can create a pass rush. It'll be interesting to see. That's a good last call. Well, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for 2 for 1 drafts. It's our 4th episode. It feels so good. I feel like we're getting our groove now. People are liking it. And guess what? We are on Apple Podcasts. We see in the YouTube comments you guys want us on Apple Podcasts. We deliver. Okay, talk about our last call. We deliver. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. And we're live on YouTube Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's been a great show. Thank you, Mike. And this has been Austin Gayle, 2 for 1 drafts.